It's back.
Hashtag no jokes.
Hashtag no jokes with Eddie Nesta and friends. New time, Sundays, 12 o'clock. The lockdown edition. The lockdown edition.
Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best. In the UK. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Hashtag no jokes. Hashtag no jokes.
The lockdown edition. The lockdown edition.
Hashtag no jokes. Hashtag no jokes. Hashtag no jokes.
It's back.
Hashtag no jokes.
Hashtag no jokes with Eddie Nesta and friends. New time, Sundays, 12 o'clock. The lockdown edition. The lockdown edition.
Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best. In the UK. The best. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Hashtag no jokes. Hashtag no jokes.
The lockdown edition. The lockdown edition.
Hashtag no jokes. Hashtag no jokes. Hashtag no jokes.
It's back.
Hashtag no jokes.
Hashtag no jokes with Eddie Nesta and friends. New time, Sundays, 12 o'clock. The lockdown edition. The lockdown edition.
Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best. In the UK. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Hashtag no jokes. Hashtag no jokes.
The lockdown edition. The lockdown edition.
Hashtag no jokes. Hashtag no jokes. Hashtag no jokes.
It's back.
Hashtag no jokes.
Hashtag no jokes with Eddie Nesta and friends. New time, Sundays, 12 o'clock. The lockdown edition. The lockdown edition.
Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best. In the UK. The best. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Hashtag no jokes. Hashtag no jokes.
The lockdown edition. The lockdown edition.
Hashtag no jokes. Hashtag no jokes. Hashtag no jokes.
It's back.
Hashtag no jokes.
Hashtag no jokes with Eddie Nesta and friends. New time, Sundays, 12 o'clock. The lockdown edition. The lockdown edition.
Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best, the best, the best. Sicker than your average podcast. Try to reach a level, but this one is top class. Eddie Nesta, I told you he's the best. The best, the best.
Hello. Good afternoon to you. Welcome to hashtag No Joke. Thanks so much for joining us. It's much appreciated. Lockdown 2.0, that's what it is. 4 weeks of lockdown, and it's been a very boring week in the world of politics, hasn't it? Lots for us to talk about. I did start in the old days by giving you a menu, but because the guests talk too much, I very rarely get to the end of that particular list. So there's no point in giving you a menu. Save to say, color will feature on the show, and so will vaccine and the vaccine deniers. Those two will definitely make it onto the show. We're here 12 o'clock, midday, for the next 2 Saturdays after this. So that will be 3 in total. 2 plus 1 is 3. No, sorry. We'll be here talking to you about anything and everything, and it's really important to us that you get your thoughts in that box. So please argue, talk, curse, deny, agree, do what you want, express yourself, right? There are only rules that just be careful. There's a limit to where we curse each other. I don't really want that on any platform that I'm involved in. I want it to be progressive as possible. Doesn't mean I like you or agree with you, and I believe in embodying what I show. I neither like, respect, or can be bothered sometimes to argue with this guy. But you seem to love him, and he's had a bath. Crutis!
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mr. Lester. I like the way, because we're talking about fashion, suddenly you've dug deep into the 1980s drawer and pulled out a lime green and a tie. I like that. I kind of see where you're going to go with that subject. Thanks for the heads up, my brother.
She was meant to be on the show, was our fashion consultant last week, but we lost her in the ether. So I'm going to do it again. Wait till you see the boss lady. Yeah? Ooh. Lost a lot of weight from them cauliflower wings this week. And
buckwheat. Porridge.
That's not what I want to call porridge. It, but we're not allowed to use that kind of language. Now, Curtis, we're going to be on our best behavior. She's a broadcaster, she's a correspondent, she's a mum of 2, and she's a Jamaican. Well, via Tottenham. Amina Taylor. Greetings to you, Amina.
Salutations. I'm in with Curtis. Ooh.
Hello, Amina. How are you? You have to sit in the middle of the camera, though. These are rookie errors you're making.
I know, but I'm next to the master, so it's bound to look bad, isn't it?
No.
That's it. There you go. Center stage, baby. How you doing? Good afternoon.
Well, I've dashed away the kids for the next hour or so I'm all yours. Good afternoon, everybody.
Well, lovely to have you
said
on.
That a few times, it sounds like. That just rolled off your tongue.
Have you two actually met each other? Have you two actually met each other ever?
No, I have not. Just stalked this man from a legal distance.
Good. Good to see you again from even more than legal distance.
You're scaring him. Now, anyway, he's had a bath for you. It's the first of the year. Thank you very much, both of you, for coming on. We're going to get into it in a little while, but I thought we got 2 Jamaicans on. I'd like a translation, please, of a little piece of video that I managed to see this week. So here it is, and I would like subtitles couldn't work with this. Let's go, please.
First up this evening, the Marine Police are conducting a major probe after a boat carrying several persons capsized off the coast of the Old Harbour Bay fishing village in St. Catherine.
An alleged eyewitness spoke with our news team.
Me dey on the land and see boat when it a go out. And when the boat a go out, me see say boat nah run good, and me say how them a run the boat so. And when me look, me no see boat again. All me see one sitting a float a come down the sea. And me have to start shout to the people, man, I say, you see that boat there turn over, and the people them are dead.
He says in trying to assist, he encountered some challenges.
If we go out there, hold one eye woman, put him in a boat, cut big stew box, put him in a boat, because if me don't do it, he are dead. So, yes, sir? Yeah, because him a go drown. If somebody go drown and you know knock him out, you can't see if him in with drown you too, you know.
Right.
And that is how you save lives. in Jamaica.
Exactly.
He's a hero.
Exactly. That man should be
That's
wearing
knock him
some
out.
kind of gold star.
So what did he say, Kurt?
He said you had to, which part of it were you confused by?
As you would say, the whole light.
The whole light? There was lives at risk, and this guy, who is not unassuming an official lifeguard, took it upon himself to risk his own life to save people whose boat had capsized, or persons. There were persons in the boat that had capsized. And to rescue, one of the men was flailing, and they had to knock him out, which is standard procedure for
In
any
Jamaica.
Jamaican lifeguard.
Okay.
Knock him out and then fling him back in the boat. Standard.
All right.
I don't
Okay,
see the
okay.
confusion.
All
A
right.
life was saved.
Okay. Now, and I appreciate it, Curtis.
Okay.
I think it's brup, isn't it?
No, I've been pop.
Okay.
Persons.
Right. So we do like to start with this. Amina, welcome. One of the things that fascinates me is these magnificent women who can do everything, be everything, and are everything are constantly a surprise to me by what happens to them when a spider enters their house. So these normally fantastic. Here is a solution. No, I won't give it. Are you all right with spiders, by the way?
I'm fine with spiders. It's the rats I can't deal with.
All right. I did have a video, but it won't play, so I'm gonna move on. I'm not gonna play.
Are you all right with Eddie?
I did say rats in it, so I don't know.
Yes.
Where is he
So
on this?
I wonder if you're okay with Eddie being there.
Just before we move on, right? Is there one thing, Curtis, you first of all, that ordinarily everybody can deal with, but there's one thing, right? For me, it's mice. I come out the house. I don't want to be here. Mrs. Nestor, we had mice because we had some building work done, not because our house is nasty. Let me just put that out there.
Sure.
Don't say a word, Curtis. That would cross the line. That would be a red line. So we had mice, right? And Mrs. Nestor, being the ethical vegan person she is, decided to buy this trap thing. So you put a piece of vegan cheese in there, the mouse runs in, and the door shuts behind it. Yeah? And then clearly you then take it and you put it outside in the forest so that it can run back in your house. Not one single mouse did we capture that. When Badman had to take the plaster, elastic, sticky pad thing, put the Kit Kat on that. I know. And I'm sorry. I wanted to eat it so that we didn't waste it, but Mrs. Nestor wasn't having that. Is there one thing for you, Kurt?
Yeah, it's got to be rats. I can deal with mice to a degree, but anything named rat, I'm gone. I've left the building. Sometimes I've actually left the continent. It scares me. And I watch that show where they do in the jungle and people get put into the coffin with rats around them. And I'm sorry, there ain't no amount of money, no amount of publicity going to get me anywhere near one of them.
That's coming
and
back,
I had to deal with one, not in my house. I had to deal with a rat in regards of it had been poisoned and surrounded by these positive women screaming. And I had to man up and deal with it, as in pick it up from a 2 foot tail and a 2 foot body. I thought it was a cat, but it was actually a rat dead, and I had to carry it like that.
And you were a hero.
Oh, I had a bath that week, I tell you.
Mm-hmm. And you, Amina, what that week? What's yours, Amina?
Apart from the obvious rat situation that we're discussing here, I once had to lay down the sticky trap. And unfortunately, he tried to gnaw his legs off to escape.
Oh, no. All right, stop.
So you ended up with this trail of kind of half-dying mouse outside. And I literally threw up trying to do that.
Wow.
That's another thing that I'm not a fan of, vomit. And when you've had 2 little ones, I tell you, just the smell of the vomit makes me gag. So I'm afraid if any of you gentlemen ever found yourself in a situation where you puked on yourself, good luck, praise be, see ya.
Never happened to me. Eddie, I don't know how many times you puked on yourself.
No.
Never me.
Bad man
don't puke on themselves.
I want to say,
They're puking on other people.
We're not advocating animal cruelty. In fact, there was a horrible story in London this week of some idiot who decided to take a crossbow to foxes in South London. So it isn't that. But if there's an ethical way that actually works, not a vegan way, then we'll certainly accept that. Get your comments coming. Let's start this show, shall we?
Are you defending mice, Eddie? We're not allowed to kill mice. That's a big industry. Are you saying that we're not allowed to buy their plastic things?
So I wish I could turn the cam. Okay, let me do something.
No, it's all right. It's all right. The boss lady can talk for herself. I don't need you to speak for her. But you need to speak to her. That's what I'm saying. If you're
nothing
in the
is
house,
killed.
you
Nothing is killed in the house. No spider, no fly. Nothing is killed in the house. It's caught in a piece of tissue, and the window is opened, and it's put out. Nothing.
What about when you go to catch it in the tissue?
Let it go.
In the process.
Let it Kurt. Let this one go.
I'm just discussing it.
You're supposed to got my back. You're taking me down.
No, not on that one. You're running around your house trying to ethically catch the mice.
Hold on,
and
man.
You wonder why you got mice.
Don't judge me. You're the one who say you don't eat boiled dumpling.
I said, as a child, that was a different discussion.
No, you didn't say as no child.
No. You need to involve me in this one. He doesn't eat boiled dumpling. The staple
said that last
of Yardie life.
Ah,
oh, Curtis.
He's only a pretend Yardie.
You know what happened? You see with him now, you take it out of context. In the context, what did you eat as a child that you don't eat now?
Did you not say you don't eat the boiled dumpling?
I do not eat boiled dumpling anymore.
Did these words come out of your mouth?
Yes, they did.
So
and boiled dumpling didn't come from the other end. I just remember as a child watching Blue Peter and them saying, if you haven't got glue, put some water and flour and stick the thing together. That's my parents were feeding me glue.
Can we move on now? Because this is not a show about foolishness, although there's a fair bit of foolishness in it.
Listen. Right. Boiled dumpling is serious things, Nesta.
Yeah, no,
do not put this down on the priority list, sir.
I agree. But vaccines are also serious. And this week there was a report out. There were lots of reports out this week which suggested that disproportionately, I think black people twice as likely to develop illness because of the virus. Asian people 1.5 times more likely. And my timeline on every social media platform that I have is full of black people saying they're not taking the virus. They don't want the virus. They don't believe in the virus. And today, as I woke up, I could see the story that they're going to ban anti-vaxxers, which means that anybody who puts anything out there that said the vaccine is not good is going to be blocked and it's going to be banned. Now, let me start with you, Amina, because this feeds in the whole Dave Icke 5G conspiracy theory thing. You've worked in politics long enough to know there are things that happen, but what is your feeling about this vaccine?
Listen, right now, the way how this pandemic has got economies on its knees, I'm talking from Washington to Ouagadougou, people need to find something that might be able to get us out of this stalemate. And you see these companies really rushing from the labs in Moscow to the labs in Oxford, really trying to get something here that would give people the confidence to try and return to a normal life. The problem is we ain't never going to be normal again after this. So you're talking about a new normal here. If I understand this correctly, normal vaccine development, 10 years is a pretty good time to get something from research stage to actually being able to administer it safely in the general population. 4 years is pretty remarkable. Now you're going to tell me something's going to be ready to go in a year. Okay, let me just pause right there and tell you why I believe that the normal protocols for vaccinations might not necessarily apply in this stage, because we're talking about something where they were already doing research on viruses. They already had something from the Ebola situation that was very recent to dealing with the common cold, and how they can use existing protocols to try and make it work for this one. So normally, I would say a year is way too fast to be using things on human in any kind of mass scale. But we're at a point here where the science, even though it's not where I want it to be, personally, I wouldn't have a problem with taking the vaccine. I wouldn't, because I believe that it's based on existing protocols. This isn't something that they're just pulling out of the air.
where it falls down for me is that I do not trust any of them. And that's where they're going to have issues with people like me. I'm not willing to have the vaccine, and that is primarily, I don't think I'm in the age bracket. I think they should give it to the young and the extremely old. All right, I'm just not trusting of this government. And when they roll it out, they will have to. I'm one of those. They will have to give the injection to the scientist's family, Boris's girlfriend, and that in that order. I want it to roll out from the 1% coming down to the ghetto, because I have a feeling that if you've tested something that usually takes, and I agree with this, 10 years is what is out there as the journey from beginning to a conclusion of testing the vaccine properly. Nobody's talking about side effects as if it won't have. I've got a family member who's taking drugs right now that on the box has a disclaimer, might cause death. And she still takes that medicine because she feels she has to live. Now, I want to hear the disclaimers of the vaccine, because I do not trust any vaccine doesn't have a side effect, if not more than one side effect. Let me hear the honest conversation about the vaccine, and then we'll have a conversation about.
All right, two things with this one, Curtis. Two things with this one where I have to perhaps pull you up on this a little bit. Sometimes in certain other countries, the way in which a medication, a vaccine is rolled out is very much linked to government protocols. But I've got to tell you, over here, there is a slight separation of the process from the politician. So when Pfizer, the guys who are actually in the lead for this one, they can't be prompted by a minister to say, yo, I know 10 people might have died behind the scenes, but could you actually make this available? Because the comeback is going to be on them. Yeah. They're the ones as the private company.
But what I'm trying to explain is, once the comeback is happening, they've made their money from the product, from the medicine. They've made all their money, because we have history of medication that was not tested properly and affected society. Right? We have history of that. So you're telling me that it's fair enough, but I just want transparency. I want honesty. And if there is a side effect, I want to know what those side effects are.
Let me jump
You're going to sit there and say there's no side effects? Miraculous vaccine?
No, that's not possible. No,
let me jump in there, because
this got side effects.
This is not really about the vaccine. This story today,
it's about trust. Eddie, trust.
No. What prompts the story is the attempt to deny people putting
the right to hear the other side.
So it's about, what's that other side based on? Is it based on fact? Is it about fake news, as Donald Trump would say? Now, let me try this with you, Amina, because it does speak to trust. And when you see the head of communications and the guy that Boris was so reliant on, that when he took that trip to Durham, he would go against, even if he didn't break the law, he broke the spirit of the law. And a guy sat in a rose garden 2 hours late and didn't give a hoot. He had no respect for the impact that it might have had on the general public, ergo trust in the Prime Minister and the government. This guy has left. The guy who was the architect of Brexit has left. So that's your chief communications officer and your number one advisor. So powerful indeed that the Chancellor of the Exchequer, one of the great officers of state, had to have his advisors report to him. By the way, again, in the week that one of those people who was escorted from the premises has won undisclosed damages for being wrongly treated. Now, that seems like a breakdown. I'm not even talking about what happens at the end of next month with Brexit and no deal. How even though we are more likely to develop the illness, even though we're more likely to die, we as in black people, you can see why people don't trust it though, can't you, Amina? Can you hear me, Amina?
I can, and I'm not sitting here saying if somebody perfectly, I can be fine, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
But it's breaking up.
I'm not to people rush and take a medication for anything. All right. I am saying, on balance, if you have a situation where you might be in danger and somebody's come along and say, yo, we've got an experimental thing that might be able to help you, would you take it? I would go, yeah, let me try it, because right now the situation that I find myself in is heading only one way. This might help take me there quicker, but what have I got to lose? I'm not saying be guinea pigs for this movement. I'm not saying put your child and your grandmother out there for this movement. And I'm saying anything that has to do with vaccinations, especially for this one, comes down to the trust that we have in the people who are making that decision. And right now, the guys in Downing Street, they can't buy an iota of trust from this country for all the reasons that you've mentioned there, Eddie.
Yeah. Look,
because they don't respect us enough to be honest with us. Even back to the original point about social media being maybe changing the law on social media about the information they give out for the vaccine deniers. Without that voice, somebody like me doesn't get a lot of information, because there are things that affect me that I only hear about on social media. And that's why I worry about them blanket saying you cannot have a conversation about it. You're putting out a different narrative than we want to be put out.
Well,
and that worries me.
Foolishness, Curtis.
Yes, they do, but as an adult, you're supposed to discern between the
No, you're not.
and what works for you.
You don't.
Come on, you don't watch social media and believe everything.
You don't. Hold on, 70 million people voted for Donald Trump.
Some people do, I'm afraid.
On the basis that they have put out videos which have been proven to have been lies now about...
Yeah, you don't even have to go to America for that, because the Brexit vote was all built on lies, wasn't it?
On both sides.
Did you vote leave? Yeah, but did you vote?
I suggest that the lies were on both sides, because everybody wanted you to believe what they wanted you to believe. I think the problem with this, Kurt, just before
the balance is that everybody's getting a chance to talk on social media, Eddie.
Yeah, but not everybody. Hold on a minute. Sometimes it's better to be quiet and thought of as stupid than to speak and remove all doubt. Not everybody.
But if you're on social media, everybody can speak. Even the stupid can talk. Do you know what I mean? Everybody should be allowed to have a voice, and this is what social media gives
Why
us.
should David
and that
Icke
is
be
the
allowed
problem,
to have a
though.
voice?
That is
because he has an opinion. Because he has an opinion.
No,
you can't have a voice.
Well, no, I'm not saying anything. I'm asking you whether or not the truth has any basis on what somebody should be able to say.
The truth is your truth. If you've got a platform,
no, it isn't. It isn't.
No, but if I've got a platform as you have today, then we've got to be allowed to have that platform.
No. Some things aren't your truth.
No, they're not. No, not at all.
But if somebody's putting something out that they believe in,
facts. So whatever.
Yeah, but fact, we're not talking about facts. I'm saying about your truth. You just said
now, I don't care about
or
what
not
you believe.
True.
If
you ask,
there's lies on it all the time.
Yes, it doesn't matter how many times you
no,
ask.
some things are not. Some things are not. Some things are not. Some things are not. The world isn't flat.
And the moon isn't made out of cheese.
I concur with that. But can I just say before, I know Eddie's...
You're getting confused about fact and truth.
That the moon is in fact made out of cheese.
Right.
No, I'm not. Your truth should not be running in opposition with my fact. You can believe all you want to believe, but if something is categorically the case. Okay. But can I just say quickly, the point I wanted to make...
If you're a religious person...
On to the next thing here
go on.
I don't agree with a blanket ban. What I do think should happen is something should flag up on your statement to say, actually, there's a different perspective to this.
It does now.
Perhaps you want to read that. Because the problem with the social media algorithms is that they end up getting you down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So if you're just doing a little thing on maybe the vaccine for the coronavirus, you might end up reaching a place where you're thinking polio and measles and that should be given to your kids, which I can categorically tell you is a different issue altogether, because we've had decades of being able to test and assess the effectiveness of these different situations. So I bow to your truth is your truth, but I not so respectfully disagree, sir.
Yeah, you're allowed to. You don't even have to apologize for it. People disagree with me all the time.
I need to move on now, Curtis. You've been so disrespectful.
But you should not be allowed to mess with people's social media. And as you said, it is a warning.
Yeah.
This is one opinion. It is not based on fact. You can have that warning.
No.
You know what I mean? We would never have seen the death of George Floyd without social media. We would never have known that happened.
Nobody's telling you, but there wasn't an opinion. You saw it for yourself, and you could make up your own mind about what you saw.
Then I want to see for myself those guys with their big heads because they tested the vaccine and their head is swollen to twice the size it was normally. I want to see them.
And then you know you got family. Okay.
What's up, cuz?
Amina, you see, I told you it was very calm.
Sorry, Amina. You see, when you try to have a serious conversation with this guy, you got a tie on now, you get
it's a gentle wave, you're right.
Yeah, don't inject yourself with bleach.
To be honest with you, Eddie, the two-headed thing wouldn't prove anything. The two-headed thing wouldn't prove a thing. That's just my Trelawney cousin.
Okay. On your mum's side. Right, so let's go. Right, look, we better get the boss in. She is the voice of calm, Amina, as you will find. The boss lady, every time it gets really hot, and I have to draw for the bell, or in this case, a stick. Then the boss comes on. Greetings, boss lady.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon,
Hello,
my king. Good afternoon, Curtis. So do you. Good afternoon, Amina, my queen. You're looking beautiful.
After Lisa.
Good afternoon to the lovely listeners. Welcome.
I bathed like Curtis. I heard there was some kind of memo.
I think we all did.
I didn't.
Anyway, straight on to the comments. Many comments about the vaccines. Many people not wanting to take it. They don't have the trust. Ozzy says he thinks we won't have a choice. With no flights and no jobs, it's scary times. Angela Andrews says it's very disturbing how quick this vaccine has been developed. Ruby May says the vaccine is not about a cure. It's about the pharmaceutical companies and those who seek to profit. Jill Nichols says, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I'd like to know more about side effects first. I will take it, but not yet. Haya says they're trying to censor us. Carl Perkins said, I've had the virus. It didn't kill me. It killed 3 members of my family, but I still need to know the long-term test before rolling it out. So that's someone who's actually gone through the experience, but still feels hesitant about taking the vaccine. Lorraine West says social media is powerful. We have a choice to pick sense from nonsense. And Marcia Lewis says social media blocks the truth. Andrea Lowe says freedom of speech is important. So
absolutely.
That's many people giving their opinions. Keep them coming in. Don't forget to like, hashtag, and share. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Thank you.
Please. Don't go so long, man.
You.
Yeah,
I won't.
You were gone too long. We lost control.
I know. I was about to come in and ring the bell and keep you guys in check. Bye-bye.
Okay, so I've got a lot of stories to get through, but I didn't think that would take quite as long as it did.
How does that?
But isn't it interesting? I know you want to move on, but isn't it interesting? Somebody who's lost 3 members of their family and has had it themselves still questioning taking the vaccine.
Yeah, because the people who are running it, I don't think I'd be stretching it to say there's been a lack of trust, a mishandling of the way that information is being handed out, whether or not they went too quickly, what it meant. Information has been a problem, and I think this week has been an absolute horlicks for number 10, because the 2 people who effectively were leading it, aside from the civil servants and the secretaries of state, are gone. So it will take, I imagine, another couple of weeks for them to find out exactly who's going to lead, where they're going to lead, and what direction this particular government is going to take. So it is, I take that back, Curtis. You're absolutely right. It's the reason why we're here. It's the reason why we're doing the lockdown 2 kind of no joke. So you're right. I step back from that one. A subject that I wanted to do, I think this is the 20th week of it now, and the subject that I wanted to do from week 2 really was colour. Now, I've got some audio of John Barnes, which I'll try and fit in later on, but I want to put it to the side now because I think that we've got a guest here and I want to try and get her on. So one of the things Mrs. Lady was saying, you can't talk about dual heritage or mixed race without having somebody at the table who could tell you their experience, because we don't ever deny people's lived experience, right? That's not what we do. And we've got our person like that who I'd like to bring on. Now, the reason that I was so keen is that there are a number of people that I know who felt conflicted in the Black Lives Matter movement, who I was living my life, if I'm honest with you, thinking the light skin, straight hair, straight nose, they were living the best life. And they told me it was the worst life because many times they weren't accepted by white people or black people. And that many of them gravitated to each other. And just very quickly, Robbie G and I went to a place with a very close friend of ours who had always identified himself as black. It was an exhibition of being mixed race. We went off somewhere. We came back and he was talking to a guy who was mixed race, dual heritage, call it what you will. And they stopped talking as we came back. And I said to him, why did you not stop talking? And he said to me, Eddie, it's the first time in my life I haven't felt like a black person. I felt like a mixed race person. So for him, that was the moment that he felt there was a distinction, right? So invite a friend, long-time friend, actually. We've never really had this conversation, so I think it's incredibly brave of her to do it in front of hundreds of people. Alison Delaney from Birmingham. Welcome to #NoJoke.
Hi, nice to be here. Nice to see everybody. Hi, Curtis. Hi, Amina.
Hi, Alison.
Thank you for doing this, Ellie.
You're so welcome.
Just first of all, because yours is a bit different, tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Yeah, it is a little bit different. So I was fostered at 3 weeks old and adopted at 3 months old to a white family in the 70s. So, you know, you can imagine what society was like around that time. And I knew very early on that I was different based on being raised in a white family. Do excuse me, my light keeps coming on and off. I'm going to turn it off. Being raised in a white family. So I was kind of raised in a bit of a bubble because we lived in the countryside. Although I was born in Birmingham, we moved out to the countryside fairly early on. So I was the only black child in our village. And you and Robbie would often make jokes about me living in the country, and I really did live in country. And so my experience was being accepted as Alison in the village, but not necessarily being identified as black. But I knew I was different because it was obvious, right? So I experienced racism like everybody else. It wasn't half as malicious because I'm of dual heritage. It wasn't half as hurtful because I'm of dual heritage. And so your point around, you know, being mixed race and having the best of both lives, I agree entirely that, you know, I wasn't accepted necessarily by either outside of my family network. And it took a long time for me to start to establish and understand where I was accepted or wasn't. And, you know, I've got numerous examples of where that came to fruition.
How did and how do you describe yourself in terms of your ethnicity?
Black, as a black woman.
Has that always been the case?
No. And earlier on in my time, it would have been mixed race, dual heritage. And then, to be honest with you, Curtis, got bored of the conversation and having to justify and qualify. So it was easier to identify as a black woman. And then if people were interested or it was appropriate, we'd have a deeper conversation. But
I'm curious. When you said you got bored of the conversation, who was it? Black people or white people wanting to have that conversation with you?
Both.
Really?
Both. Yeah, absolutely. And so black people, it was about qualifying you know, how I fitted in then, you know, so, and I'd hear things, you know, this is back in the 80s, 90s, so you'd hear things like, you know, the mixed blood makes you mad and all of this nonsense. And so, you know, as much as that was in jest, it was already putting me in a box. And so it became tiresome.
Tell me about your voyage of discovery, because you must have left at some point, and for me, school was the cruelest place I ever was. So just tell me about your education.
So I went to an all-white school, and my first experience of any kind of racism was when I was about 7, and I was called a gollywog. Didn't really understand what it meant. And when I went home and said to my mum, I felt the energy that was attached to the statement wasn't nice, but didn't really understand why this was a slur that was being thrown at me. So when I came home and said to my mum, this was the first time that I remember seeing disappointment and fear and upset in her eyes. And so, you know, she took out the Robinson's marmalade that we had in our cupboard as well, and showed me the picture of the gollywog and disempowered the statement. You know, we were raised on believing in ourselves and recognizing that we're unique and beautiful, and that's what makes us who we are, and that we should never let go of that.
So you always knew?
I always knew, yeah. It was never hidden that I was adopted, and I've always known that my father was black and my mother was white.
Siblings?
So my siblings, my adopted siblings, were all white, even though my mum fostered lots of children. But my natural siblings, I still continue to discover who they are. As with most people who are adopted, it's a continuous journey. But I know for sure that I have a mixed race sister who is older than me, and 2 white brothers who are also older than me. I'm the youngest, as far as I know, so far, that we've found. So,
have you guys met up? Is there a time that you meet and talk?
So I met my sister, who was the first person that I actually tracked down, and that was quite a traumatic experience. You know, when you're adopted, I think lots of people build an image of what they think their family is going to be like and where they've, you know, originated from, and it's the whole, my dad's probably a king of another country and all of this wonderful stuff. And the reality is often very different. And in my case, my sister was a working prostitute, addicted to drugs. Her children had been taken away from her, and there was a lot of anger from her side towards me, which I completely understood.
You were lucky.
Well, absolutely.
No, sorry, please. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, is that how she felt about it?
She felt I was lucky. She felt that I'd been chosen for a better life. And she also felt that I should be obliged to help her in her situation because of that. And so very early on, she challenged me for money. She challenged me and judged me often. And when we did eventually meet my birth father, who ended up living about 20 minutes away from my house, which is another story. She did everything she could do to discredit me and try to humiliate me in front of him. Yeah. And, I've been raised not to judge as much as we all do, but my mum has always said, look, lead with education. And, where people are judging, it's often because they don't understand. And I understood her anger. I understood that there was a threat that was coming into her environment, that, she'd been with our dad for much of his life, and I was stepping in, and all of a sudden he seemed to be far more interested in me. And some of that was because he didn't know I existed. Yeah. So this was a complete surprise to him.
Well, clearly there's a book there, Ali, right? And clearly there is, and the whole, fostering and guilt. But today, if you don't mind, I just want to focus on the race aspect of it, and about you, and about you discovering yourself. And was there a eureka moment? Was there a moment where you decided to live your life in a particular way, or have a particular type of friend, or take us just through your adolescence?
So as with most people, you're exploring and trying to understand who you are as a person, regardless of, what your upbringing might have been. And some of the things that I'll share with you today, I've never spoken about. So because of the impact that it had on me in the moment, and it was something that I didn't know how to talk to other people about. So, you say your show is undiluted, and here you are. So my first experience of recognizing I was seen differently by Black people. I used to go roller skating back in the day at Granby Halls, which was sort of our space, and it was amazing. And they used to have a soul night, and we used to go and skate. And in this environment, that, you know, this was in Leicester, in the city, and there was a group of people that were sort of, you know, the in crowd, and we were on the outskirt of the in crowd. We were accepted and tolerated and spoken to by this group, but we weren't really in the group, and they were a little bit naughty and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. But on this particular night, there was one particular girl in this group who you just didn't knock heads with. You didn't give her eye contact. If she was looking at you, you know, she was a fighter. And on this particular night, I could feel I had her attention for some reason, and I didn't know why, and I was doing everything to try and avoid it. And throughout the night, she made it her business to come and stand by me. And just out of nowhere, she turned to me and she said, and excuse me, because it's still horrible now, but she said to me, don't get above your station thinking you're nice. You look like you do because somebody who looks like me was raped by the slave master and skated off. And in that moment, I went to my friend, get your bags, we're leaving. Because for me, that was a sign that something unpleasant was about to happen. So safety first and foremost, because it terrified me that, you know, that was a statement she thought was appropriate to make, but just a really scary situation. And it really made me realize that actually, Alison, you're not accepted by this particular girl. You know, it's a Black girl, wasn't accepted. And she was very, very clear on that. And there was real malice in that statement.
But do you take that comment and then you say, all Black people don't dig you, all Black people don't get me? Do you know what I mean? It's because I've got mixed race friends and mixed race family, and their journey, like a lot of us, I didn't really understand it because I've grown up in a society that we're in Jamaica, in Africa, with the caste system. You know, the lightest thing, 20 years ago, when I first started to visit Jamaica, because my father returned there, bank managers, all the teachers, all the kind of what we would call the upper echelons of professional work world were all light-skinned people. And it was me then noticing it and saying, wow, that has changed. Let me qualify that. That has changed in the last 20 years in Jamaica specifically. But there was that rhetoric of, oh, they think they're better than us. All my friends and mixed race or light skin even, not even mixed race, have had that you think you're better because of the color of your skin. And that comes from the caste system of that slave mentality where I think we're going to talk about it later on, the term colors.
Yeah,
and all of those
Curtis,
things.
I don't mean to wrong you, but am I hearing you right that you are not making the distinction between being light-skinned and mixed race?
I kind of believe where I have issues with it is when there's certain people say, I don't want to be defined by my color, which I think is fantastic as a rhetoric. I don't want to be defined by my color, but I'm that guy. I see your color first. I do. I see your color, and then I want to get to know you and get to know your personality. People who say, oh, I don't want to be defined by my color, I think it's hard, and I do not make the distinction about color. I do not make the distinction. I'm answering your question, sir. I do not make the distinction because then I would have to get to know you to know, because you make that call sometimes and you're wrong. Like you'll say, oh, that's a mixed race person, and they're not. You know what I mean? Both their parents are Black, and they're still very light skinned. So I just treat them as Black people. But I know that's not friendly. And some of them don't see themselves as Black. Some of them don't call me Black. I'm brown. Sorry, go on.
Let me bring in Amina. Ali, I'm coming back to you. You know, Amina, you're the mother of 2 mixed race children, Jew heritage children. What do you say to them? Oh, we've got some sound issues.
It's so powerful. First of all, good afternoon, Alison, because I was listening intently there to some of those experiencing and just seeing how especially the moment at the roller rink really brought it home for you. Some things were just not as rosy as you thought. But I've got to say, there was a really deep conversation that took place before I even attempted to get my first son with my partner at that time of many years, about the distinction between what his DNA would be and how he would be viewed in society. And though my son is mixed race, he's seen out there when he's on the streets of North London as a young black man. And I make allowance for perhaps a little bit of the difference in, you know, you being able to call on your white dad and him being very much present in your life and what that means in terms of being very close to that side of the family. But the way I have chosen to raise these boys is, what do people see when you're coming on at Archway Central? How are they going to respond to you? How does that mean a difference between you and your friends when you walk into a store, or you put your name down for a job application and you roll in, or you're asked serious questions by a law enforcement officer coming in? It's not supposed to be able to tarnish what I want for his future, but it's about being realistic in this moment. And I've heard him say, yeah, I'm mixed race, but my mom's Jamaican, dad's English, and he's very much comfortable with that. Dare I say, when you were growing up, the conversations didn't happen as easily, and perhaps young people weren't as able to drift out of those situations and just let the chips fall where they may for.
Well, I'm going to come back. Let me stop you there.
They're young black men, because I think that's how they're being viewed out there.
Okay. Let me just bring in the boss, Ali, because we've got a lot of comments coming in, and then I'll come back to you one more time, yes? Because I think that's a salient point made by Amina there, that being mixed race, dual heritage, or the word that was used at that time then and now is completely different.
Yeah, hello again. Hello, Alison. There's a lot of love for you in the stories. Hi. People are sending out their love and respect for you telling your story. So thank you very much for sharing that. Thee Day says, would have thought mixed race was more acceptable as you look more white. There's very mixed views on people's opinions. Donna Henry says, we as one black race all need to respect each other. This is our downfall. Maria Fortune says, I personally think that a mixed race person can choose and embrace both or any side they want, but I'm not keen on those who deny their blackness and only want to use it when it's beneficial to them. Carl Perkins says, in some ways, mixed race people have it harder because they experience racism from both sides. Rai says, it's about being able to relate to a particular culture. If a mixed person is brought up around a white family, they might find it harder to relate to a black person and vice versa. And Joan Levi says, yes, slave mentality or colorism still exists. Thank you for your comments, guys. Keep them coming in. Don't forget to like, hashtag and share. See you later. Bye-bye.
Ali, just a couple more questions. And again, like the boss lady said, thank you very much. What would you have said to your younger self, Ali?
That you're looking for acceptance in all the wrong places. And there was a moment of reality for me. And it was actually sort of driven by when I met you and Robbie G and your very intense and honest narratives that you would share often that would have me reeling, going, my God, I don't know. I don't know what to do with this honesty. But it was a really flippant conversation that I'd had with Robbie G, and it was about open toe shoes. So this, and I don't know whether he'd even remember this, but I had a real thing about my toes because I had an operation when I was younger. I remember Boomerang and Eddie Murphy pulling up the sheet and displaying the toes, and it was a real thing for me. And Rob very flippantly said, you have to be able to love all of you to love you. And just left again. And it wasn't even a deep thing for him, I don't think. But for me, it really resonated. And in that moment, I thought, you know, you're so right. If I can't love me, then how can other people love me? And if I can't accept me and accept that I've got a crooked toe, then, you know, why am I looking for this for acceptance? And it was the same thing with race. You know, I can't expect other people to understand my journey. It's my journey, you know, and I have to embrace it, accept it, grow from it, love it, and understand that that's what makes me who I am. And that's always been the narrative from my mum. You know, she was a single parent raising me. That's always been the narrative. But learning to believe it has taken many, many years. And so there was a conversation that myself and you had, Eddie, around being mixed race. And you said, you know, whether you like it or not, if you are lighter, if you are more aesthetically pleasing to the eye, there are greater opportunities for you. And again, it was one of those statements that I went, oh my God, this is something I'm going to have to go away and really think on again. And, you know, to a certain degree, I can't disagree with that statement. As you said, Curtis, another of my friends highlighted that very point, that front of house people are usually lighter skinned. And, you know, it's very different now, as you've said, but back in the day it wasn't. And so there were all these signs around me and these people giving me information that was uncomfortable to hear, but often factually correct. But it didn't take away from the fact that I am mixed race and I love who I am, and therefore I better learn to accept me and stop looking for you to accept me. And that's when the difference in my life started to happen. So
we could keep you on. We could do about 8 different shows with you. Thank you for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. I know it's not easy to come on in front of strangers and hundreds of people listening on the internet and talk about it, but it is a conversation, whether through Kamala or not, that is pertinent right now. You know, we don't often describe Bob Marley, Barack Obama, or Rosa Parks. I think now they're talking about it. We don't often talk about mixed race, do we? So listen, we'll do it, because there are shadism, colorism. We've got more to come if they let us stay on. Alison,
and you know,
God bless you. Thank you so much for coming on.
And Alison, before you go, you could have dealt with that toe issue just by asking to look at Eddie's feet. Any issue you had with yours, they would have paled into insignificance. If you ever saw those dry foot that brother has,
my feet weren't dry, Curtis. They weren't dry. There was a cookie toe.
I know, babe, but Eddie's foot, yours is nothing. Show her your foot, Eddie.
God bless you, Alison. You take it easy. Well, look, I mean, you were like, there's so much. We'll have a phone conversation. Listen, I did have one phone conversation before I bring Joy on, who's literally been lost in the ether for 2 weeks, right? But I did have a phone conversation this week. I had a phone conversation. So I got to work and the guy was sacked from chair of the FA, Greg Clark. And I said, we've got to talk about this. And my bosses, the ones who use the N-word, were telling me I can't talk about it and use the word coloured, right? So the guest, whatever guest you have on, can't use the word coloured. Just take a listen to a little bit of the conversation that I had and I know, Amina, that you are a Liverpool supporter, so he must be like a god to you. Here's me and Johnny Barnes.
Well, I was very offended when I first came to England in 1976 and I was coloured, because everybody was calling me coloured. If I'd met the Prime Minister, I'd met everybody up until about 1988, I was coloured, and I was very offended by that. I always knew I was black, but of course that was what people used to say. Now it's turned completely on its head, so now we're not coloured, we're now black. And when Alan Hansen they wanted to sack Alan Hansen because he said how great coloured players were. He didn't say black, he said coloured. It shows that, of course, if you're a particular age, you will have a particular language. And for me, the intent is the most important thing. So I wasn't offended at all, particularly as he was saying that he's looking at the plight of women players and coloured players. Yes, he should have said black, but he's talking about a real serious problem that we have. And that conversation is now lost because he said the wrong word.
Amina, is the word coloured offensive to you?
It isn't, but it says so much about the person saying it. So as soon as that word pops up in somebody's vocab in relation to describing somebody's heritage, I'm kind of like, don't think I'll be going over your house for tea.
Wow.
It rings alarm bells, I must say. Not offensive to me, because I understand that, you know, it's normally from of a certain era, but we can't be friends friends if you don't understand that word is no to be used. We can't be brethren. Sorry.
Isn't it interesting, Curtis, that in my lifetime, coloured was a word. I mean, I've had to stop my mum from using it. Coloured was a word that was used because people found the word black quite a little harsh and a little offensive. So coloured was the nice, and threatening. And coloured was the gentle way to get in. All of a sudden, you can't use coloured, but you can say black.
I'm just curious about if you look at the actual video of the interview online and where he uses the word coloured, it's not in a derogatory way. He's trying to be positive with it. And it's a white liberal guy who challenges him on the use of the word. There's a thing going on that pick your fights. I don't think there's many black people who, a man of a certain age using the word coloured in the context he was using it, would have said, I want him gone. I want his job. I want him out of it.
I prefer you when you don't bathe. Bathing has warmed your brain to a point where it doesn't work anymore. It absolutely surely speaks to a person who's in charge of hundreds of black players and that he doesn't know the correct way. And I'll go even further. It wasn't just about the word coloured. It was about the way that he talked about women not liking the ball kicked at them. About the way he talked about about the way.
But you're saying that, but he didn't get sacked because of that. He got sacked because of the word coloured.
Which I find astonishing.
My mum uses. You find it offensive. Have you told your mum you find it offensive?
No.
My mum uses that word pretty much every time she's supposed to say black. When was I coloured chap? I coloured chap. Come around here, Theo. I coloured, and I'm saying, Mum, just say black. She's having issues with using the word black. It's a generational thing. There are words that I'm more offended by.
Your mum does not represent thousands of people who kneel down every single week before a football match to say Black Lives Matter. Right.
I hear you, Eddie, but I don't know if this is the debate. The way that this, the information in the debate has gone, I think it's distracting from the rights of women in football, and all of the things he was trying to champion have been lost in a rhetoric where we're talking about coloured. You understand what I mean?
So you agree with John Barnes?
No, but
you agree with John?
What did John say? No, I agree with well, it's very, very rarely I don't agree with John Barnes, but on this issue, where he went with it, I kind of lost a little bit of when he said he took the word coloured and took it back to South Africa and said in South Africa they use the word coloured and people are called coloured, but he didn't kind of appreciate that came from apartheid and they were labelled, and that is where the word has come into my parents' generation and a little younger. See, I didn't grow up with the word coloured. I didn't have that in my vocabulary, and I was very blessed to be born and live in a real kind of predominantly black area, and we called ourselves black. It was black power from when I was a youth. So that word is, I'm comfortable with it, and I am comfortable in watching how uncomfortable you are when I use it. I enjoy that too. How's that? All right? And that's after a bath.
Right. So look, I need to get this lady on. I had all sorts of things to ask, and while I'm getting this lady on, you get your points in about John Barnes, and just answer this one. This will be the fun one at the end, right? Just think about this. If your sex life was a movie, what would it be called? Yeah, right. So while I'm doing that, let me bring on a lady who's been lost in the ether for 2 weeks. She's been lost in the ether.
Life was a movie.
Yeah.
What would it be called?
Yes, no, don't do it now, Curtis, which probably would be the name of your. Too soon. Right. Yeah. Right. So let's bring on this lady. I need her on. Hello, Joy is from Potential.
What? That's hard work.
She runs. We're not doing movies now, Curtis. We're going to do that later. This is Joy. Joy runs a company called Potential Hand. And Joy. You can leave the camera for me now, Joy, because we're getting dizzy. Right. Joy, as I say, runs an organization called Potential You. There was a report recently that said that most of us put on good things at the top, and at the bottom, we've got shorts or whatever. And they're actually like Amina, because Amina now is very different to the Amina that I saw in the test at 11 o'clock. Joy, is there any point in getting dressed up in the lockdown?
Yes, of course there is. Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon, Eddie. Good afternoon, Amina. Good afternoon, Curtis. Of course there is.
Good afternoon.
There's a massive point in getting dressed. I'm a style and image consultant, and there's a notion that says when you dress well, you feel good. So I think my word for this second lockdown is to be intentional. Our skin, our body is the biggest organ. And I think it's important that we clothe it in things that make us feel good. So don't just roll out of bed and go to work, even though you're working from home. Make a bit of an effort. And what I always try and teach my clients is about the power of color. So as you can see this afternoon, I'm wrapped in sunshine yellow, just to kind of brighten the mood. And there's something called color theory. Different colors conjure up different emotions. So I think it's important to be intentional about our style, wearing color, especially during this season, because there's a lot of doom and gloom. And also counteract the weather. The weather's dark. By 4 o'clock, it's dark. People have been at home. So I would say be intentional about your style, because it does help your mental health as well.
Even if you're not going to see anyone, it's just you. I mean, you're talking to a guy.
Yourself.
You're talking to a guy he didn't have a shower in the whole of lockdown 1, who bathed today. I was so proud of himself. He put it on the internet.
I don't believe you, Curtis. Curtis, you're not
yes,
right.
Darling,
are you?
Because I heard you were coming on, and I thought, oh well, let me have a wash. You don't have to bathe every day, do you?
You saw me during the first test.
Yeah. And I love your hand. Do you do that to show you've creamed them?
What about?
I'm wearing colours every week, and nobody told me the memo.
It does cheer you up. It really does cheer you up. Even like, and if you notice, Eddie, all the women have got red lipstick on. Myself, Amina, and Boss Lady. It just helps you to pop, helps you to feel alive. Eddie's got lime
Eddie,
green
put on your red lipstick, Eddie.
No, not for Eddie or you, Curtis. But colour does make a difference. And making an effort every day really makes an absolute. Even spraying perfume just has that bit of cheer, because life can be a bit monotonous in lockdown. So I would just say be intentional about your skin, about your body, and what you put on it. Think about fabric, think about colour, and also take time to sort out your wardrobe. It's a really great time to kind of make an effort and just get organized as well, but be intentional about your styling. So colors like yellow are cheerful, they're happy. Colors like red are sassy, they're powerful, they're present. So I always encourage clients when they do presentations to wear that. Green is very earthy, very much with nature. Blue is very calming and very soothing. You know, so color theory is really important, and wrapping yourself.
I've got a lot of black clothes. When I looked, I was doing the wardrobe, trying to sort it out, and all my clothes are black.
Yeah, most people, particularly in the Western world, wear black. It's not an African or a Caribbean thing, but in the Western world, most people wear blacks and greys, and it's not nice because that's what the weather's like. So you kind of have to be intentional and counteract how you feel. Wrap yourself in sunshine, in color, and take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Very true. And how often should we wash?
Every day at least. Minimum every day. Every day. If you go for a walk during the day, have a shower afterwards, please. Twice.
Twice.
You're right.
Have a shower twice. Okay.
In terms of the wardrobe, I mean, please, for the Boss Lady, some real information. What if you haven't worn something for 5 years? Can you throw it out?
Well, one rule, I have a few rules about that. Yes, definitely. If you haven't worn it in 2 years, a few rules. If you haven't worn it in 2 years, sell it, get rid of it, give it away. If it doesn't fit you, if it's more than one size too big or too small, get rid of it. Because having things in your wardrobe that don't fit you, it's like me holding a size 8. It doesn't make sense when I'm a size 12. To get rid
what
of
about
things
the dream and the aspiration to get back into it one day?
No, be real. Be real with yourself. You're not going to fit into that dress that you wore 10 years ago.
Amina, are you listening to this?
It doesn't do your confidence any good hanging on to things that don't fit you and that you wore years and years ago. And too many people clutter up their wardrobe with things like that. If it's one size or 2 sizes too big, get rid of it.
Can I say something, Joy? It is lovely to meet you virtually.
Yes, likewise. I've heard you on BBC
I
London.
once remembered.
So it's great to see your face.
Wonderful.
Okay.
I once went in to Mr. Nestor's show when he did the later night, and I was dolled up in this green dress that I couldn't really breathe in. Walked in, his mic went down, and he went, the girdle holding you in that one.
No, I would never say that.
That's
but
too
here is
funny.
a man
I bet you
who's
weren't
been
comfortable either, Amina.
in that fashion forward from early 2000.
I can't hear you. Can you repeat that?
She's sticking. Amina, let me jump in.
She's breaking up.
And say, Joy.
Yes, sir.
You've got an opportunity to, or our people will have an opportunity to find out a little more of what you're doing, haven't they?
Yeah, I've got an event on called my Winter Star Masterclass. It's on the 26th of November. It's at Just Tickets. Just Google Potential You. It's a masterclass where I talk you through the wardrobe essentials for winter for every single woman. So many of us have wardrobes that are bulging, that are overflowing, but there's just some key pieces for every woman, no matter your size, no matter your age, that I'm going to be sharing. I'll also be talking about dressing in lockdown, dressing at Christmas, because Christmas is going to be very different this year. And I think we have to wrap ourselves around that. Less partying, more at home. And also the trends, how you can incorporate that into your wardrobe. But ultimately, like my brand values, it's about feeling confident in your skin and dressing in a way that flatters you. So that's on the 26th of November. Check out Just Tickets Potential You.
God bless you, Joy. Thank you very much. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Joy.
We'll give it another
me.
promo. Always. Joy is fabulous. She's very, very good at what she does. And we appreciate you coming on, Joy. God bless you. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you. Thanks, Amina.
I've had to wear a tie 2 weeks in a row because of you. Okay, thank you very much. So I've got to say, there are people complaining about what Joy said. I've not worn something in 5 years and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's one of the reasons I think that people are going to Primani, because then they can wear it once like Mr. Byra and then throw it away. But I think that if you do buy quality clothes, actually, you do want to hang on to it, because you do get the feeling that, you know, like your flares, Curtis, they may well come back.
They'll come back.
Right, come back.
They'll come back. And so will my waistline.
Right, 5 minutes now. Quick fire roundup.
This is over 25 years old, by the way.
Nobody's surprised at that either.
So, I just want to say about the 5 years that you can have shoes that you might not wear over 5 years that you don't throw away because they might be for a particular outfit, a particular color, a particular style.
Can you hear the defense coming in? I hear the word.
I hear it. That's where the shoes. The woman said, throw it away. If you haven't worn it in the last 2 years, throw it away.
Nobody said anything specific about shoes.
Yeah,
they cost a lot of money.
You haven't worn. If you haven't worn them, sell them. She said you can sell it.
Right. My father gave me good advice about shoes. Never buy a woman a pair of shoes. The same shoes you buy her is the same shoes she will leave you with.
You've got me many shoes.
I thought your father would have told you whatever shoes you buy, make sure they got a very big heel.
You're a fool. You're a proper fool. Right? Okay. Amina, Mrs. Nestor is not playing this game.
Oh, why not?
I'm making sure everybody knows. No. Badman said no.
Badman said no. Badman said power. Go on.
Right, Mrs. Nestor is not playing this game.
Can I go first? What game is it?
No,
let her go first. I want to hear what she's going to say.
This is not a game.
She can't say Kelly Holmes. I know that.
Right.
Not again.
Not in this particular game. No. Right. So, Amina Taylor, if your life, you want to know now, don't you? Yeah. Kiki. Your life was a film. Your sex life was a film. What would it be called, Amina?
Right, my sex life as a film. Ride Along 2. The sequel, not quite as good as the.
Wow! All of a sudden, you become more interested. Right along too.
Maybe Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift. Always a sequel.
What? That is
all right. You're not dealing with. All right. Are we there yet? I don't think that's the name of a film. I think that's part of a journey. Okay. Maybe we should stop this.
I know I'm enjoying that one.
That's a good one.
It is.
Home Alone.
It is.
Is that yours,
Home
girl?
Alone. 1, 2, 3.
And right now you're only on 2, right?
Chitty bang bang.
Home Alone.
Hang on, where's Chitty Bang Bang just come from?
I don't know. Just stay there, babe. Just stay there. I told you. Stay there. Don't get involved. I told you.
That was one of the comments.
No, that's what you said.
No, mine's is gone for 60 seconds.
A big one?
Oh, yeah. There you go. That's the one I thought you were going for. Mission Impossible.
Fast and the Furious.
You can't say it twice. It doesn't get funnier the second time. What they saying online, man? Home Alone.
Home Alone, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Run.
Oh, yeah. Or Marathon Man. No?
Predator.
Yeah, that's you. Predator.
I'm going for them, but Terminator.
Run with the Wind.
Jeez, you lot are really silly, aren't you?
Titanic.
Yeah.
Go down.
You say iceberg, I go down.
Oh, this is a good one. Trading Places.
Yes. Invisible Man. Right, so look, come on.
Well done, Eddie. That's good. Fun. Nice.
One. Before we go, I was going to phone John Barnes and invite him onto the show, but I got the feeling that probably, knowing our audience, may not have been a good idea. So, first of all, some of them about John Barnes and what he said, and our responses to the whole coloured word, please, Lise.
Okay, Monica Bailey says he used the word so much it was funny, talking about when he was on your show.
Particularly as my bosses had told me to tell him not to use the word, and he said it 20 times. I told him I love him.
Lorraine says coloured is used because these people are uncomfortable with saying black. Carol says my aunt still describes black people as coloured. It's their era. Sonzi said, we always said black in our family from young. My mum insisted she was black. I'm not pink, green, or yellow.
Yeah,
Michelle says, I don't like saying white or black. I cringe on both. Really? Jill says, I felt more offended when Lord Kilcooney called Kamala Harris the Indian.
The Indian, yes.
Yeah.
I was raging about that. Michelle says, as for John Barnes, he's always towing the line and sports broadcasters need to stop using him to represent the black race.
Yeah, but
I mean, did you ask go back?
Yeah, sometimes we have to analyze what people say, not the person themselves. I want to say thank you. There are a couple of stories, really important stories that we didn't get to, Ethiopia is a story I would have loved to have touched today. The Met rebranding, trying to get 40% of their recruits to be of color. I got to tell you that Mangrove 9 is on telly tonight. It's a series called Small Axe. I know Luella Gideon did 2 episodes. Robbie G's in one, John Boyega's in one. So please give that some love and support that for me. I think it's a very, very important thing. And that was
Eddie.
Yes,
Eddie,
sir.
can I just say well done to the family that it seemed saved the young lady from being abducted or being taken away, where the family got involved. Just want to send out a big shout to them. I thought that was brilliant, and great use of social media and great use of family and sisters and women. Well done.
Well, yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because sometimes is social media a force for good or ill? And we had the case in Merton where one day I'll get that woman on and just bow to her because she intervened in what looked like, I mean, I know it's going through due process, but it certainly looked from what we saw to be a difficult situation over there. But there's still stories. The guy was trying to drive his car into a police station in Wood Green. Honestly, well, Mangrove 9 is the first episode, Yvonne, of Small Axe. Small Axe is a series. It's a series of programs directed by Steve McQueen, which highlight important times, I think, between the 80s and 90s in the black people's lives in England. It is an absolute must watch, even just from a historical perspective. And absolutely, I'm so jealous that I didn't make the cut. But it's a brilliant, brilliant thing to do and a brilliant thing to watch. Amina, how have you been? Has it been all right for you, Amina?
Yeah, man.
I like the way you contemplate before you say anything to him.
No, I think it's the delay.
Okay, I thought you'd just do what we all should do, just ignore him for a second. What you said?
I've been trying for 20 years, but here we are. It's no, it's looking good on TV tonight.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on to hashtag No Joke, the lockdown edition. You've been fabulous. Hopefully we can get you back. You've been brilliant. It's lovely to have you on, Amina, and I wish you the best of luck.
I like how you just waited now to invite me. I gotta say, Eddie, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for coming on, and keep us updated with, because there's a squatter in the big White House in America. Keep us updated on that, please.
Yes, sir.
That's a good reaction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
No, it's not, I think it's a delay on the line. We're gonna.
But it's hilarious. I just want to say, I saw one of the comments. You know my eyesight's bad. Fist of Fury, somebody put up for film time. It's been a pleasure, guys. Great to see you, and good luck.
I wish you hadn't said that. On my imagery now. Bye-bye. Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.
You're just an awful human being, and I love you. Take it easy.
I'm gone, boss lady. I'm gone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
And thank you very much, boss lady.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Listen, as I say, recommend people, recommend subjects. Lots of you already have, but please keep them coming in. There's 4 that we're doing, 4 special ones, right? In lockdown 2.0, it's a difficult time, and certainly if you look at what's happened in the world of politics today, as Curtis said in the beginning, it just challenges any confidence you might have in the ability of those that we've elected to be able to adequately deal with the challenges that we have right now. But also, we're going to have lots of fun. We're here for the next 2 at least. We appreciate you. Please take it easy. Please stay safe. I read one today. You thought you killed me when you buried me, but you didn't know that you had planted me. Keep yourself going. Try to do the things that you love. I know it's difficult. I find it difficult myself, and I'm lucky to have 3 hours of therapy a day at BBC Radio London. But I've got the Mayor of London who's taking your calls tomorrow. So if you can listen to BBC Radio London between 5 and 8, he's on with me at 5, and he's not done it for about a year, but he's coming on to answer Londoners' questions. So whether it be about vaccine, the R rate, or those flower pots that are up in the road everywhere in London, those LTNs, then make sure that you have your say. Lewis Mastermind Ben takes over at 2 o'clock. I've eaten into some of Paul Lawrence's time. He's talking about internet dating, so some of you might find that computer love interesting. Lethan does his bit also. So look, we're trying to all do our bit. God bless you. Thank you very much, particularly to the boss lady for pressing all the buttons, to Curtis, to Potential You, and to Joy, to Alison, and to Amina. Look after yourself until next week. God bless you.